The initial public offering for the Kenya Pipeline Company has already gone active. We've spoken to the players, we've spoken to the stakeholders who have been keen to getting us to that point. Now we want to do a deep dive, speak to people who look at the particular intricacies of Kenya Pipeline Company, as well as an initial public offering, the NSE, with a tooth comb. So let's talk to, he is known to you online as Soko Analyst, but on his ID, Steve Biko Wafula, a prominent market and investment analyst, to give us a diagnosis. First of all, I want us to appreciate from your expertise. This is a company that posted profits of over 6 billion shillings. And this, of course, is with the look at the revenue of, let me put 35.4 billion revenue in 2024. However, what everyone is talking about, the valuation. The IPO values it at 154 billion shillings. Do you see this as justified in your view?
First, thank you so much for having me here. The first thing I would like to say about KPC is that it's a strategic asset.
Yes.
It's a very key company in the economic aspect of the country. When you're looking at it in terms of valuation, there are a lot of factors that actually go into play. One of the things that it's had very good management. If you look at other government agencies, it's, I think, the leading government agency that's been able to make profit and pay dividends to the government. Its management in terms of how it's been run for the last decade has been actually very good. And I think that's what has explained its growth to where we are today. The second thing is that there's the current constitution, the 2010 constitution, has changed how we look at government assets and how we dispose them. So as an analyst looking at KPC, I need to look at it from the lens of our current constitution. And a couple of things are very important. The need for public participation is very critical. The need for transparency and accountability is very important. One of the things I've seen the MD of KPC do, Mr. Johnson, is being able to explain to Kenyans what the IPO is all about and how important it's going to be in the country going forward. We all know that Kenya found oil in Turkana. And we've been talking about, harvesting it and refining it and stuff. We've seen our neighbor Uganda talking about, developing their own pipeline and refinery, which is actually very important. So there's a lot of conversations around the energy sector. And the IPO comes at a very critical area in terms of how the Kenyan government is going to come up with taxation and policies on how it's going to help KPC post-IPO remain relevant in the energy sector going forward. So one of the key issues in valuation, I mean, if you're looking at the profits they did in 2024, I expect the 2025 full year results to be even better. People look at different things in terms of valuation. So you're looking at profit, you're looking at management, overheads, you're looking at what are the current government taxation impact. Taxation is no longer a backroom event. It's actually a strategic aspect that businesses need to actually focus on. It's now it's the lifeline of any business. So taxation, profit margins, and it's been paying dividends. I don't think I've seen any other government agency paying dividends the way KPC has done. So these three key issues do it. The tentative valuation of 154 to 164 billion, it's tentative. It's times 22 times. When you look at the other peers in the energy sector, we're looking at KenGen, at KPC, it's a bit high. But the what saves face is it's a monopoly.
Right.
First and foremost. Number two, given the sector it's in, I think the government is going to create or draft policy and taxation policies that will enable the company to continue being profitable and to make it more strategic. We've seen a while back, we saw the president actually inviting the president of Uganda to come and buy a stake in KPC. And this is something that many of us are not appreciating the impact of it. This particular invitation will have a very critical impact on the IPO going forward, because Uganda is doing a major refinery project. And if Uganda agrees to be an investor in KPC,
Yep.
then the value of KPC will actually become long term.
Okay.
And they make money from a tariff aspect. What I mean is that the volumes they move in terms of fuel and petroleum products is actually benchmarked on government tariffs. So increasing more partnership with Uganda and other landlocked countries will make the company more valuable.
Yeah.
I see them increasing the profit margin, which means the government and other shareholders, now me and you, will be able to get something out of that.
Kwa kifupi, as you've explained what goes into the valuation, someone looking at this, the speculators, the ones who are wondering, should I not, or even when, you think there is a lot that explains the 9 shilling per share value. However, there's those who will probably wait it out, and perhaps when it dips. But for the explanation of why such a high value, is it the ambition, or is it really backed by what you've just mentioned, Uganda? There's some demand that will grow, energy demand that will grow within the region, so justifying this value.
2 aspects. The demand is there.
Yeah.
Depending on how the Kenyan government will create the tax policies around the sector and overall the economy. We all know that petroleum products are the engine of the economy, and KPC can only make profit depending on the volumes they're able to sell out and push. So a thriving economy will mean more volume in terms of petroleum products, and a better engagement and partnership with landlocked countries like Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC is actually very critical to KPC at this juncture. And it informs why the president actually invited the president of Uganda to come and invest. And when you look at the memorandum of investors on how the KPC is, that these are 20% for East African investors. So this is critical on how it's going to be. But the most important thing is in 2030, the population of the region, East African community, we're going to clock, I think, 200, if I'm not wrong. Kenyans will be around 60, 70 million. So population is growing, so there's demand. We've seen the numbers coming from World Bank in terms of transport and logistics is actually growing. The logistical areas and courier economies are growing by 11%. So there's demand for the petroleum products. So it only it behooves the government to create policy that will be pro KPC and will be pro the economy in terms of creating more demand for petroleum products. But also for those who are still not sure, it's a good piece to buy. We haven't had an IPO of this magnitude in a very long time. I think the last one was Safaricom. Though they happened under 2 different constitutional mandates, this one is happening under the 2010 constitution, which demands accountability, transparency, and public participation, which is very important. But I like what KPC has done in trying to educate people. And I think even what you're trying to do, trying to break down what the people need to do. My advice would be is if you can get money, buy. Because you never know. Okay, as an analyst, if you look back at the previous IPOs, Kengen, Safaricom, they drop a bit, then they pick up. But given that this is a monopoly, it's a unique sector, the demand is there. I mean, the demand is consistently there. It's very difficult to say it will drop or it will pick up. So my advice is buy for long term. Buy and forget and wait for dividends, because they've been paying dividends. Imagine a government agency that's been paying 84% of its profit to the government as dividends, and they've committed to 50% post-IPO to give the dividends to shareholders. And the other interesting thing as an analyst is at Soko Directory, we came up with a 3.9% post-share split IPO listing dividend yield. It's a bit lower compared to before the listing. But I think the reason is now there are more shareholders and the shares have been split and been diluted, so the dividend yield goes a bit down. But also this year, the dividend yield might be a bit low as the government pushes through critical tax legislation and energy policies to give it the opportunity it needs to go. And also what will define the relationship between the Kenyan government and Uganda government in terms of the petroleum deals.
So kwa mwananchi, hii ni sure bet.
It's a good sure bet. Buy.
All right. So you've mentioned the split, and this is on the share split. 20% retail, 20% local institutions, 20% East Africa community, 20% international, 15% oil marketing companies, and 5% staff. In this breakdown, and I'm sure you're reading the situation and perhaps looking at what wisdom guided that. Do you feel or do you think this will help balance broad participation or against the risk of oversubscription?
Allow me to begin in a different aspect. There's a lot of demand for investments in Kenya.
Yeah.
Kenyans are losing almost 900 billion every year to scammers, to unregulated investments, to forex traders who disappear with the money. Kenyans have money to invest. The challenge has been the availability of such opportunities,
Yes.
like the KPC IPO. It's a good IPO. It's backed by the aspect that it's a monopoly.
Yeah.
And when you look at the split, the 5% for, I wish they could have done more for the employees.
Oh, more than 5%.
Yes, because
Okay.
I believe employees are the ones who are the lifeline of the business. I believe the 20% to Kenyans is little. I mean, if the government was really serious, they will have taken a bit more time to popularize the IPO and maybe give us 40%. We have the money to buy.
Okay.
I'm actually confident that there'll be an oversubscription of it. MTN in Uganda did the IPO, I think, in 2023, if I'm not wrong. It was oversubscribed. I remember, in fact, Kenyans bought a lot more. So there's that East African awareness in terms of investment. Our stock market is the most advanced in the region. So there's that capital, there's hunger for investment. The question is just how much information is actually getting out there to help people make the right decisions. So I believe there'll be an oversubscription. I believe that the 15% for oil marketers is not enough. I believe the 20% for the region and even local is not enough. And
but do you see a balance in your analysis? Was there an attempt
it will be difficult to have a balance because of the appetite. Every segment has enough hunger to invest.
Okay.
So my fear is that the time crunch is too limited. So the offer opened on 19th, it closes on 19th of February.
Yes.
It's supposed to go in the market on 8th of March. When you look at Safaricom, what we learned from Safaricom, and especially on the element of refunds, was a very big challenge. You're supposed to get your share certificate. It's a process. You open a CDS account, you deposit money, you buy. It's a whole process. And unfortunately, I've not seen CMA and NSE doing roadshows to educate Kenyans on how they can be able to buy the shares.
Actually, that's what the next phase that they have gotten into in terms of KPC and the other partners. So that's ongoing.
So to just answer a question, every allotment is going to be oversubscribed.
Right.
Yes.
So and you've spoken about, I think actually it's March 9th. So allotment on March 4th and listing on March 9th. Do you foresee anything happening in terms of either the oil market or within the NSE that could derail this particular process with the timelines that have been given?
I don't see the biggest challenge to this IPO is the constitution.
Okay, but it's not a challenge in a negative way.
Yes.
It's actually a positive because it
demands accountability.
Yes.
And it demands transparency. Activists and certain parliamentarians have actually cried about the element of public participation. And we've seen how the judiciary has been very keen on ensuring that public participation is very important. So for me, this is the only thing that can actually bring a stop to it or derail it a bit.
Okay.
But I think the management and the Ministry of Treasury have been able to address that. They've been able to explain how the public participation was done. Also, this is a niche market. It's not an issue where the local baraza needs to meet and agree. So when you're doing public participation for such an event, you also need the right people to be able to explain to them and get diverse views from them. So I think the onus lies on the Ministry of Treasury.
Yes.
To ensure that they're able to explain to the people who've gone to court exactly how it happened. The other thing, but I don't foresee it as a problem, maybe as a positive aspect, the Ugandan refinery project. you know our trading partners. Uganda is our biggest African trading partner. So for me, I think we need to bring Uganda very close, make them even brothers better, so that we can be able to work together. So I don't see the process having a challenge.
Yeah.
Even if there's oversubscription and there's a need for refunds, I think that can be handled. I mean, I believe NSC and CMA have the experience of Safaricom to be able to address this issue. The time frames are a bit limiting and intense.
Sure.
But I think now this means people are going to work 24/7.
But if you compare it to Safaricom and what have you, having that month, within the window of the IPO, the initial public offering, from 19th to 19th, against Safaricom, you would say there's been a bit of breathing space. It seems rushed, and they will tell you this, that the process had an attempt in 2009, so it didn't just start the other day. So they will tell you it's been a long time coming.
In 2009, it couldn't fly because we were pushing for a new constitution. And actually why it was stopped is because the new constitution had the element of public participation.
Correct.
The difference is during Safaricom times, there were a lot more stockbrokers.
Yeah.
They're all over the country. Yeah. You could walk into Ebuya and find a stock brokerage. You'll go into Mumias and find a stock brokerage. 10 years down the road, 60% of the brokers have shut down. The remaining 40% have merged into each other. And now we have less than 10. So the issue of accessibility becomes a very big issue. Can I buy this IP on my phone? I think the CS for Treasury had said you can.
Yeah.
So we are hoping that the software and the platforms that are going to be used will be stable enough. You know what happens like now when you're receiving your results, too many parents logging in and the system shuts.
Yep.
This might be a very big challenge if you're going to use our phones to be able to buy. The other, I'm hoping they can partner with Safaricom to be able to avail the Safaricom systems for local Kenyans to just be able to buy. Because now I'm thinking, if I'm in Webuye, where am I supposed to go to buy the IPO? It becomes an issue.
Yeah.
So the difference is, in as much as there's been time, accessibility to the right office to buy the IPO is a challenge. And we are hoping that this week actually, those in charge can be able to advertise and show where exactly Kenyans can be able to buy, or explain how I can be able to use my phone to buy the shares.
You've mentioned it somewhat, but speak directly, whether it's from Soko Directory perspective, on your projections on the dividend yield and what you see as growth, perhaps, if we look ahead.
The East Africa community is growing. Actually, by 2030, we'll be rivaling Nigeria in terms of population. And we are a ready market for a lot of products.
Yeah.
The need to travel, the need to move human labor and goods is growing. We've seen courier services in the region actually expand. So I believe KPC will increase its volume. In the next decade, I see them tripling their volume every 5 years if managed well. The question is how much money of the IPO raised will go back into the
infrastructure,
the company itself to improve its products, research and development. Post IPO, a lot of things are going to happen. The most important is going to be what the current government's policy on the energy sector, taxation are going to be critical. How fast Uganda and Tanzania are going to try and be reliable, self-reliant on their own infrastructure, or we're going to partner. If KPC has promised, they've actually undertaken to do 50% of the profits into dividends. Our research at Soko, we arrived at 3.9% of the current price. It's very low. And this is what many people have been using to say cautious.
Yeah.
But we also need to understand that there's a reason why this IPO is being done. So some of that money will go into the infrastructure fund. And I believe some of that money will go back to KPC itself for research and development to enable it, improve it, upgrade its systems and its pipeline. So this year, the first 2 quarters will define how the dividend yield will be. But I believe from 2027, 2028, the dividend yield can grow from 3.9 to 7.2, because now the initial pressure of where the profits will be going will be dealt with. And subsequent years, they can be able to increase the dividend yield subsequently as they're able to keep more money to themselves and give more money to the people.
And so that's your hopes in terms of the growth and what they would invest.
Not just hope, but just when you're looking at the numbers.
Projection.
Yes.
The reason I'm tying that is for the next question. Now post-listing, what you feel it will do, the impact that it will have on governance and efficiency, because there is a question now. We have shareholders, and there'll be somewhat more scrutiny or even diverse demands, right, on KPC, based on the other shareholders, 65% that are getting that stake. So how would we be, what would you recommend in terms of avoid this as a privatization pitfall?
One of the reasons why I'm supporting the IPO process, not just for KPC, but for other projects, is because of governance structure. For a long time, we have critical assets: KPC, energy; Kenya Seed, food security; KEFIS, food security; KEBS, accountability to what we're consuming. One of the reasons why I'm supporting the IPO process is because of accountability and transparency that's going to be there. I remember in our talks, I was asking if the management knows what they're walking into. The current constitution demands a high level of transparency, commitment in terms of accountability. And initially, KPC is only accountable to its board.
Yes.
And maybe the appointing authority. But now they'll be accountable to Capital Markets Authority, they'll be accountable to the Nairobi Stock Exchange, and they'll be accountable to Central Bank to some point. So you realize that now there'll be more accountability and more transparency. Every tender they're going to do, every pipeline they're going to lay down, every machine they're going to buy to upgrade, every policy they're going to push is going to be scrutinized. The Kenyans who are going to be retail investors, the local people from the region who are going to be investors, institutional investors, the brokers who've been able to survive until now, they become very powerful. And they're going to represent powerful interests. I am happy this is the path. We will be able to see better policy in terms of energy. In fact, I'm hoping that EPRA will be forced to be a bit more transparent and more clear on how they come up with their charges on fuel and petroleum products. It's going to change the entire ballgame. And President Ruto has been keen on pushing for this. And I'm hoping that he will actually be able to appreciate that he's actually opening. He's not going to live in a clear house where people can see in. So there's not going to be, we've seen KPC going to court over tenders and projects. It's going to be very difficult. Right now, even before they list for a tender bidding, it's going to be very critical. Public participation is going to happen at every event. And then the other thing is, remember, the element of public participation is very critical. And I can go to court and demand that even the appointment of a single director should go through public participation. And this is what is making me excited, because now, after KPC, I'm looking forward to KEBS, I'm looking forward to Kenya Seed to be listed so that we can get better services from them.
As a very strategic national asset, that is energy, are you worried, because you've even mentioned people having a say, so there's public participation, but by virtue of the 65% that's now going to the public in terms of this IPO, is there any part of you that is concerned that there could be some foreign influence that will weigh in and interfere with that governance that you're talking about?
At Soko, I follow the how money moves across the globe. I don't think there's any fear of probably some strategic European person in Czech having a control and trying to define how it will go. No. A good example is how Safaricom has been able to be managed. Safaricom is very, very critical to the economy of this country. We also what happened during the 2020 COVID lockdown. And we all understand how critical Safaricom is to the banking system. One of the reason why I support the IPO is because of transparency when you list on the public stock exchange. I believe that even if someone who's a majority shareholder will have any nefarious ideas,
Yeah.
they will not be able to achieve what they want.
Okay.
I remember when President Ruto invited the president of Uganda to come and buy, there were a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's a national asset." It is a national asset. But remember, I think what people need to understand is what happens when you list on the stock market.
Yeah.
What are the governance structures when you're listing on the stock market? What accountability do you do? How do you account for overheads? How do you pay rent? How do you employ people? How do you pay your pensions? I think we need to have education so that people can understand what it means when a company lists on the stock market and what it comes with.
Is there some thinking that guides then? We go back to the how the listing has been split, to manage that in terms of how much it really is under control for not necessarily any nefarious character,
Yes,
but influence monetarily. So the split of 20% retail, local, 20% EAC, 20% international, and 15% to the oil marketers and 5% to KPC
the
staff.
5% to employees and 15% to oil marketers
Yeah,
is very strategic, very.
yeah,
Because they will be able to marshal a lot of resources and get a controlling stick. And that's why it's been reduced to 5% and 15%, and giving local Kenyans 20% over them, precisely for that. Because there will be influence on who sits on the board,
yes,
who will represent who will represent the Kenyan government, who will represent the retailers, who will represent the East Africans. There's going to be influence peddling, seriously. But the good thing is that the CMA Act is very clear on how this procedure is going to be done.
yeah,
The NSC is very clear. The NSC guidelines on governance are very strategic and clear on how things are supposed to be managed. Appointment of directors, appointment of the chairman and the CEO, dividend payouts. I mean, look at companies like NCB and how they're paying the dividends. Everything is very clear. The Capital Markets Authority has one very interesting rule. Your cash flow, you need to announce it every quarter. Yeah. When you do your results, when other sectors are doing the results, do yours publicly, in the dailies, on TV stations, on radio stations, and social media. So the board will have a lot of influence. They will pick a particular policy to run with, but the majority shareholders will have a voice. The most important thing is that listing on the stock market gives the opportunity to the public of Kenya a voice on how the matters are done. Before, the management will decide who gets the tender for what. Right now, it will not be possible. There will be a procedure to be followed, and the procedure will be accountable and transparent to the public. But the most interesting thing for this IPO will be what the government do with the 2026-2027 finance bill, and how the taxes will impact the energy sector and the transport ecosystem.
So talking about the internal matters that we project will happen, it has been touted to be potentially the biggest IPO in the region.
Yes.
And you follow the money internationally. What does this do to investor confidence? So say, as you have projected that there'll be an oversubscription, to have such an IPO historic within the region, what does it do for investor confidence and for the NSC?
I remember writing on Twitter that this is a huge opportunity for CMA and NSC to come and have roadshows and go around the region, even Africa, go to the US, because we've not had such an IPO in a long time. The market has been very dry. We have less than 60 firms listed on the stock market. Thanks to technology, now I can buy Tesla shares, I can buy X shares from Nairobi. This particular IPO is very strategic, not just for Kenyans, but even for international investors. Geopolitics is redefining how people invest in other countries. We've seen President Trump and the US government, how they've been leveraging access to their markets. It's been America first. You want to sell your products here? Let's have a very good deal that benefits us fast. So I think this presents a unique opportunity for Kenya to position the Kenyan country as an environment where you can come and invest your money. as an environment whereby, because of our constitution and our judiciary being transparent and very strong, that you, in case of a contract breach, you be able to be heard and be given proper justice. But this is just hopeful that the government can be able to realize the moment, the occasion, and how heavy it is and how big it is. Because one, I think after Safaricom, there's been nothing, I mean, of note on the stock market.
If you were in Frank Mwiti's sit or position, you'd be smiling.
I'll be knocking on the treasury door, give me money for advertisements, give me money for roadshows. Because it's a big deal. It's big. And the other interesting thing is the ability to buy the shares on the phone. It will revolutionize the whole aspect. People in South Africa will say, I mean, every time there's an IPO in Kenya, they will want to buy.
Right.
And I know we do bonds on M-Pesa. I think it's time to leverage and just increase it.
Right.
And I know, so the IPO says that you can buy the minimum shares, 100 minimum shares. So that's 900 shillings. But I think towards the end of last quarter, the NSE said that, you can buy a single share. For the longest time, the minimum number of shares you could buy was 100. But now you can buy one. So I have 10, I can just go and buy one share every single day like that. And that is revolutionary, because now the retail person who's the target has the opportunity to say, every week I have 50 bob, I can keep piling up my shares. One share here, one share there. It's the best way to build a portfolio. So I don't think the government understands the moment or the occasion that's been presented by the IPO. And if it goes well, other firms can come and list. They'll be ready. I mean, if Kenyans are losing almost 900 billion to fake scams, you can imagine the opportunity that such an occasion will present, assuming we have an IPO every quarter.
It might set a snowball effect.
That would be very good. And not just for Kenya, but even companies in Uganda and Tanzania and South Sudan and Ethiopia. The partnership between Kenya and Ethiopia has really opened Kenyans' eyes on how, as a region, we can be able to benefit from one another. And the best way to leverage cash flow and bring in foreign investment equity is through the stock market. The rules are very clear. Governance structures are set in place. There's precedent on what happens when you breach any law or any aspect that you promised to. So it's a unique opportunity. For me, I'm hoping that the snowball effect will go into the sugar industry. Make sure the sugar industry comes and lists the element of taxation. Taxation is the biggest problem when it comes to investing. And for a long time, taxation was the backroom, you tick boxes. We filed on time. You tick a box. You said we paid our taxes before 20th. It's no longer that. It's now an active strategic aspect that every business needs to focus on.
Right.
And I'm hoping that Kenya will learn the lesson and change how we do our financial bill every year. We're not predictable. Every year, changing taxes every year is very unpredictable, and it's created a very hostile environment for job creators. So when you go to Egypt or Mauritius or South Africa, the tax changes happen every 5 to 10 years. So I'm hoping with this IPO, we can learn and say, now for the next 10 years, this is what's going to be our tax policy.
Right.
You create an environment that is very stable for people to come and do IPOs. We have a lot of family businesses in the country that would do a lot if they listed. A lot. I don't want to mention them, but we have almost 100 of them that can follow this the IP. And I'm hoping the KPC one can open people's eyes.
Right.
And I hope that CMA and NSE, because you see, once I've bought the shares, the responsibilities are on CMA and NSE to ensure that the shareholder, you and me, get the best value of our investment.
So I hear a lot of, the world is watching. It is bigger than just us here in Kenya, the region, the continent. The world is watching, and it's a great opportunity to, as you say, create a better environment for the investor, confidence and appetite, even internally or within the country, to grow. So you've looked at the bigger picture in terms of the region and how they're looking at us. Also, just to judge how it goes, to determine investment in the future. For that one individual who's looking at this IPO and has yet to determine whether or not to buy shares, and to do it now, to do it later, angoje kidogo, what would Soko Analyst tell them?
Let me tell you a story. So I have 50K currently, so I can only buy maybe Safaricom and a few banking stocks.
Right. That's your M-Pesa balance.
No, no, I mean,
I'm joking.
I'm
Yeah,
assuming
you
I
have
can
50K. It's an
get a
example,
digital loan and
yeah.
Kenyans have a hunger for investments. Opportunities are very limited. Irrespective of political affiliations and leanings, this is a great opportunity for us to be able to invest. Not necessarily to make money, but as an eye-opener on how governance of government agencies and parastatals can be done. If parastatals list on the stock market, it can save us a lot of tax money. We will have proper managers, chairmans, and CEOs running the parastatals in a more refined, positive way, creating profits. Now, instead of our taxes being used to run these parastatals, is their profits which will be used. So from that point alone, it's very big. Secondly, it's an opportunity to add on to what other shares people have bought on the stock market for long term, for dividends, and if for the last 3 years they've been able to give 88% of all their profits to the government as dividends, and they've committed 50% going forward for the next 1 decade, it's a huge opportunity. And NSE has made it easier. Post the listing, you can now buy a minimum of 1 instead of 100 currently. So for those people who are keen and are waiting, if you don't have enough money to buy the 100 shares, buy 1 on the listing day and build up your IPO. So for me, it behooves NSE and CMA to actually join the conversation and be louder. It's been the president, Ruto has really marketed this, and he's really said all this money goes into the infrastructure fund, but CMA and NSE missed the opportunity to tell other Kenyans, instead of getting scammed elsewhere, bring your money here and encourage other family-related businesses to come. Thirdly, when you invest on the stock market, you do it in 2 ways. Either as a trader, whereby you buy on Monday, sell on Wednesday, remove your profits, or long-term in terms of dividends. So my advice will be buy this stock for long-term, for your children. Put a standing order of 1,000 shillings every month and forget about it. In the next 10 years, you'll have gotten, the money will compound. And where we are heading to, if I'm reading our geopolitical very well, the next batch of leaders will be pro-East Africa. We're going to be a huge population as one, which will be good for anyone listing on the stock market.
Right. So I don't know if I cut you short when you're talking about the 50K. Sorry about that. But you can add, as you answer, you can also tell us, Bwana Soko Analyst, atanunua hizi shares. What's your strategy for this one? And you can revisit the 50K if you had an example.
I'm looking for 50,000 to buy.
Okay.
That's my take.
Okay.
So I've actually applied with my broker.
Okay.
Also, the thing I forgot to say is that if you walk into Cooperative Bank, I think one of the partners in the IPO, you can buy the shares. So for those who are not able to buy on the phone, Cooperative Bank branches across the country. Kingdom Securities is part of Cooperative Bank, so you can buy the IPO through them. So I'm looking for 100,000. So 50,000 will be prepay.
Okay.
Buy now, hoping I can get full allotment, and then the other 50 will be post. So depending on whether it dips or it goes up, I put that. My take is the dividends for my kids. There's a way people make money, and making money is very boring. It's a very boring process. You do the same thing repeatedly for 10 years before you can actually see the value of your money. So it's an opportunity. It's in the energy sector. Energy sector, we've got Kenya Power, we've got Kengen, now we've got KPC. The most dominating sector has been the banking sector, then the telco, then construction, then energy. So it's going to change a lot in the energy sector, and the ripple effect will also affect other listings, and it's also going to encourage people to come and do that. So my advice is, whether you have 900 shillings or 1,000 bob or 500 and you can't buy now, wait for the date lists on March 9th and buy just 1 share. It's technology has made it easy for us to be able to invest.
Yes.
It's very difficult to save for pensions. So the best way to compound your pension is have a portfolio.
And I like what you said about, people don't really look at it that way, but making money in such an investment it's quite a boring thing, because you have to wait it out.
Yes.
And the reason I'm reiterating that is to speak to the person who would expect quick returns.
That's our biggest problem.
Yeah.
We are what we call the microwave generation. I want my thing right now. True wealth takes 10 to 15 years to grow. Those who make money, the Bible says that those who have more will be given more, and those who don't have, the little have will be taken away. It's very true. The people make money on the stock market are the players. If you have $1 million, pump it into this, you'll make a lot more money. The difference is in the cents, 0.23, 0.25 cents. You have 1 million shares. That's almost 200,000. So making money on the stock market, it's boring. And that's why you see people come up with policies, education policies, insurance schemes. They don't put their money on the stock market.
Right.
But because it's boring, doing it directly, it's boring. It becomes a bit difficult. But now with a mobile phone and tech, some brokers have an app now.
Yes.
You can be able to track your investment yourself. We just actually forgot to add CDSC. It's a government corp that deals with the accounts that are hold. So CDSC, NSC, and CMA need to wake up and take advantage. So this is a good, I think in the banking stocks, only NCBA has paid its dividends consistently and Safaricom. So when they commit 50% of their profits to dividends, it's a sure bet that every quarter, when they make their quarterly results, you'll get dividends. That's big. 4 times. And the thing is, you can remove, if you borrow the money, you can remove the profit.
Yeah.
Pay the loan pole. So it's I'm happy what NSC has done with the ability to buy 1 share.
Right.
There's been a lot of government push for this IPO. I'm hoping NSC and CMA will pick up. I'm hoping that Kenyans can take a minute and read.
Right.
Because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of us just want immediate cash. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
And this is what the problem is. This is not a cash scheme whereby I take money here. No, it takes time.
Takes time.
Yes.
For the remaining question here, I'd take us through the process as if someone has probably just arrived into Kenya and has no idea about
on how to
applying for this or investing. So I might have the money, but I don't know, where do I begin? Niende nitafute ID, hiyo umesema CDS
account.
Take me through the steps of what I should do. And these days we have more access thanks to this. You've mentioned apps, but it's not clear. Where does that Kenyan go?
So
where do I start?
To invest in the stock market, the traditional way is very simple.
Yeah.
You need a CDSC account, a Central Depository System Corporation account. So this is the account. It's like your bank account, but for shares.
True.
The COP it's a government parastatal. And once you open a CDS, so you can open a CDS through your broker. If people go online, you can just go to Google and say stock brokers in the country. There's a list. Then pick one near to you or one you like. You go there, you go with your national ID or passport. It's free to open the CDS account. And once you open the CDS account, if your broker has an online portal or an app, they will tell you how, do you have your banking app now for your cash? Same methodology. Once you have money on the CDS, so you give instructions to your broker and tell them that I have 1,000 shillings in my CDS account, please buy for me this number of shares. So for the KPC IPO, there's a form. Once you open the CDS account, there's a form you fill and you indicate how many shares you want. And then now you open the account and then now you deposit the money. So once the IPO closes on 19th of February, the allotment process will happen in the next 2 weeks. So that by the time the trading starts on 9th of March, your CDS account...
Your allotment, just for someone who doesn't understand. What is that?
Allotment now basically means you've applied and KPC has allocated you. They've given you maybe 1,000 shares worth of your money, and now you become a shareholder. You've become an owner. KPC is one of your investments. So your CDS account will reflect the allotment. And once trading starts, you're able to monitor. The NSC has a link where you're able to monitor how the listed firms are doing day to day. Trading is very interesting, happens between 9 and 3 p.m. The rules have changed in the last quarter. Now you can buy a single share of any listed firm. You can buy for long term. Long term is advised so that you can also get a benefit in terms of dividends. The other interesting thing is that you can actually use shares as collateral for bank loan. That's one thing people didn't know. So if you have shares, you can actually go to your bank and say, I have shares.
Yes.
This is my allotment. The allotment is the number of shares you have. Give me a loan. It actually works better than land. So the process is very simple. For those outside Nairobi, I think KPC, I think there's an ad running on how you can be able to buy using your phone.
Yes.
And I think, I'm not so sure, but I think they've linked it to M-Pesa, so it becomes easier. You fill the process, then you deduct the money.
Right.
Then allotment is now when you're being given the shares will be done between 19th and 8th of March. And the likelihood of oversubscription will be there. So people should be expectant of some refunds. The refunds may not happen immediate. They will give you the allotment, say, out of the 10,000 shares you wanted, we've given you 6.
Yeah.
So your balance will be paid next quarter. So people need to know that things don't happen in like a microwave, so there'll be time to happen. My advice is there's a lot of information online. People should just go to Google and say how to invest in shares. Information will come. How to buy shares, what to look for in shares. If one of the things we tell investors, if you don't have risk tolerance, then when you buy shares, be ready, because the stock market can make you millions or you can lose a lot.
Yeah.
And we've seen people having heart attacks and dying because they've lost $1 million in a day. So risk tolerance is something that people really need to have. And that's why we advise investors on the stock market to take a long-term view.
Right.
Because you'll get dividends 4 times a year, and your initial investment will compound. You're able to, one of the biggest enemies of investment is inflation. And there are different kinds of inflation: core inflation, normal inflation, and I think the inflation the government has been really praising about is the normal one, which is at around 4%. And it eats into investments, especially those people who have put money in savings and stuff. So it's a good opportunity. Even if you buy and the shares go down to 5 bob or 3 bob, even Safaricom went down.
Yes.
Then it came back to 40. Then it's come down. So it's a ping pong.
Right.
And with technology on our phones, it becomes easier to trade.
It's a good strategy for those who are probably waiting. Wait for it to pick and sell
when you have
immediately,
money,
or just wait.
If you have a lot of money, buy on 9th.
Right.
Yeah, buy it at 9 or 9.1 or 9.2. Then it picks up, you sell out. And that's why I was saying, walk to a broker, let them sit you down, let them give you more information over and above KPC. Understand.
What's in it for the broker? Just for someone who hasn't dealt with them, are you paying them separate, or is there a commission? How does that work?
So,
because sometimes there's the trust element. I'm not too sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and
so they charge a administration fee.
All right.
I think it's 0.5 of your investment. And they're very transparent. The laws are very clear. If you're buying shares worth 100 shillings, they'll break it down into tax gain, tax, and everything. Very clear how much money they're taking. But in this particular IPO process, no one will be charged for buying. It's going to be, I mean, it's a fast way. It's happened for the first time that KPC is giving out the shares. So the process will not be free. I mean, you're buying for the shares, but you'll not be charged a percentage for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just that's a way of netting.
Yes.
And getting people in and keen. So, but otherwise, besides this conversation, people can still follow your socials. You can tell us where we can get, because I'm sure you'll be talking about this as you watch it.
So we talk about money, we talk about investments. We've been talking a lot about this particular KPC IPO, not because we are pro it, but because it's exciting the market.
Yeah.
Our market has been dead for the last 1 decade. There's been nothing interesting. In fact, I have a lot of investors who haven't called me for the last 5 years because they gave me money 5 years ago. We invested. Things have gone south. We've been waiting for things to balance out. So it's an excitement period, and I'm hoping the government can list the next strategic asset. Guys can get more information on SokoDirectory.com, or can follow me on my social handles, X at Soko Analyst, TikTok at Soko Analyst, IG at Soko Analyst. We talk about money every single day in investments, and we're not having a conversation to support the IPO. The conversation is about how government can manage government parastatals effectively. But as a taxpayer, I would like to see my money going into healthcare and education more than being told you're being charged 0.3% of your total turnover, and this money is going to go to this particular parastatal. Like what's happening in manufacturing sector. So this for us, it's an exciting period, because we are hoping that instead of these parastatals coming up with laws where they surcharge my business for them to manage their affairs, they can list all of them on the stock market.
Right.
Yes.
And that actually almost goes into another conversation, because it seems like you're saying, based on how this goes, there's more IPOs
For
to
example,
come.
if I'm allowed to say this, KEBS has imposed a 0.5 tax, a charge on manufacturers over on your gross turnover. What is KEBS doing for me? Why are they taking 0.5 of my gross money? This is probably the only profit I have. So if KEBS can be listed on the stock market, we have new leaders, we have better people who can manage. So the issue is, it's a unique opportunity, and there are very interesting conversations to have about this particular IPO. And it's about how critical government assets can be managed very well. So instead of me paying a lot of money to Parastol 1, 2, 3, 4, list. We've seen NSSF getting into road infrastructure. NSSF should list. We should do more. We have a lot of money into this. But I mean, because of politics and personal interests, we have conversation based on what feeds me and what minds my own. But the overall conversation that we need to focus on is the opportunity to manage government strategic assets in a way that they'll be able to give Kenyan services better.
And if you follow Soko Analyst, he's very critical, especially, excuse me, on matters governance. So it's good to hear your honest opinion on this, and no politics. Like, politics aside, it is a unique opportunity.
It's a unique opportunity.
And it is a good opportunity for the government to show how...
Actually, one of the things we're waiting is to see how it performs. And then now do our own road shows and tell the government, do more. List the sugarcane factories. And I'm actually keen on KEBS also being listed. And the thing I don't think Kenyans are appreciating is that when you have a parastatal like KPC being listed, if you're a shareholder, you can walk into them and demand audience. With John Sang and tell him, why boss bwana. Things, if quality of fuel here is not good. And I keep wondering whether the president is actually aware of what door he's opened.
No, actually, Bwana Sang did say that when he was on the IPO day, that he was talking to his son, telling him to buy shares, and he was like, oh, actually, my son is now going to be my boss. So I do think that they realize you have the opportunity as well to be the boss and have the shares. As you've heard it from Soko Analyst himself, it is a unique opportunity, buy, but also have the long-term view. Doesn't happen overnight. Asante sana. Thank you for your time and your analysis on this. And we'll keep following you on the socials, definitely, to see how you're following this conversation, because I know you'll be watching. And stay here for more as we get the conversation going with other experts.